Hi friends, welcome back to Arc Tutorials. In today's episode, we are going to learn CRUD operation in Angular 12. In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through scratch, step by step, how you can achieve CRUD operation in your Angular applications. This is one of the most common use cases that you would work on any Angular application. So let's get started. I'll keep it very simple. Before I get started, let me request you to please check out my Angular 10 complete tutorial playlist that's in the description box below. Make sure you go through it because I've covered all the topics in detail with a lot of use cases which will really help you in your applications. Alright, so what are we going to do today? We are going to learn how to install Angular application, install Angular material, and we will also learn how to do CRUD functionality end to end from scratch step by step. Without wasting any time, let's get started straight into it. Alrighty, so all I have here is an empty project directory. I don't have anything here. So we will do everything from scratch. So I'm going to first do npm install angular/cli. That is what is required for us to work with Angular. That's the very basic first step that you will need. So first we'll install Angular CLI. And the command that I ran is npm install @angular/cli. While it is happening, we will be using Angular material in our application, right? So this is one of the most commonly used framework. All my other tutorials in this particular channel include with bootstrap. So you can either use bootstrap or you can use Angular material. So we'll be using Angular material in this particular thing. So the next step that we will do is first create an Angular application. So create new Angular app. And for that, the command we will run is ng new and name of the project. So the name of the project can be anything that you would want. In my case, I'm going to build, let's say, CRUD operation for admin user, right? So I'm going to call it admin. So ng new admin. This will create the application. But before that, it would prompt us few options like, would you like to add routing? Yes, please. Which style sheet we want to use. I'm going to go with SCSS so that we can add mix-in, we can add different styles which are much easily extendable. Alright, so while it is creating, like I said, we can use either Bootstrap framework or Angular material or Foundation or Tailwind, whichever you prefer. In this CRUD series, we'll be using Angular material design. Angular material design is pretty cool. It supports a lot of tools that we need, a lot of components that we will need. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Let's give it a quick minute while it is doing its job. In the meanwhile, if you're new here, please do subscribe to my channel. Also do check out the other series that I have on Angular, Express, Node, MongoDB, etc. As always, I look forward to your feedback, support in this channel, and thank you in advance for that. Alright, so it's taking a little while, and I don't do editing work, so that's why sometimes it takes work, some extra minutes, so please bear with me. All I do is live coding for you guys so that you learn how to do end to end. In the meanwhile, let me show you. This is the Angular website that you should be referring to, that we will also use in this particular tutorial, and this is the Angular material URL that we'll be using a lot of components from here as well. Okay, so make sure that you get through it. So this is your best friend, I would say, that whenever you are in doubt how to use some component, please refer to this documentation. It will be really helpful. So this is the command ng add Angular material that we will have to run. So now our application is created, admin. Now let's just paste our command, which is ng add @angular/material. So this needs to be in the definition. Alright, so we need to go to admin and again run it. So now it will add it will search for the package and it will add it. So it will also provide us some options like, would you like to proceed? Yes, we would like to go with 12.1.1, and then it would ask us to choose a theme. So let's give that a quick 30-second time. And the best way to do is code along with me, follow along, so that way it would be much easy. So you can see there will be different options here. So I'm going to go with indigo pink theme. Would you like to set up the global typography? Yes, please. Would you like to set up browser animations? Yes, we'll need that also. So you need browser animations, typography, so that you work well with Angular material design, right? It would have a standard theme, so it would update your angular.json, index.html, and style.css. All good. So now what we did, we ng add @angular slash material. Okay, so we have installed an Angular application. We created new app by the name admin. You can see here admin app. We also installed Angular material. Now all good. Now run the app. Okay, just to make sure that it's all good and it's all up and running. So you'll write ng serve. Since we'll be using Angular material components, it would be a lot faster going forward in terms of putting together the UI. So don't worry too much. We'll try and complete it in one shot as much as we can. The first time when you compile, it may take like extra 30-second time, but going forward, it should be pretty fast because of the hot reloading feature that Angular provides. All right, so our application is compiled successfully. Now go to the URL and type localhost, and you should see the Angular application up and running. Okay, so once you have this, then the next thing we'll do is go to source app, go to app component, and I'm going to delete all of it except for the router outlet. So delete everything but the last line, which is router outlet. So now when you see, you don't have anything on your screen. All right, perfect. This is what we wanted. So now our Angular application is up and running. We got the Angular material components installed. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the toolbar that will give us a 2-column layout. So we are going to use a component called matDrawer. All right, so the best thing is go to components. You will see here, you can see the side nav, right? So you can see a lot of examples that are provided here that you might want to explore. So I'm going to go with the basic drawer component. So I'm going to go to code and just take this as it is, and I'm going to go to app component, paste it here, move the router outlet to the component. So now I'm saying any output should come to router outlet. The moment you do this, you will get errors here. Why? Because we have not imported the required modules. So what is the required module? The API. So copy this import module and go to your app module, import it here. So remember, whenever you want to work with any Angular material module, you need to first import it. All right, so import the mat side nav module. Now again it will compile, and now it should be all good. So you see here it's compiled successfully and all good so far. So now let's add some content to it, so we'll know that it's working fine. So I'm going to say welcome to my app, and let's see. So we can see here that it is showing. So to get the exact styles, what we are going to do is go back again to basic drawer, go copy the CSS code and put it in SCSS file, and now you should see it should occupy 100%, right? So that's how it is occupying with these 100%, 400 pixel here. I'm going to make it 100%, and I'm going to make it 100%. So it's now full application. You see here it's now full page. All right, so that is a classic example of how you can get the quickly the container, which is the drawer, to get the 2-column layout. All right, so I'm going to go little bit more and copy this exactly so that we get the same styling. So this is the 400 pixel, 400 pixel, or if you want, you can take a fixed side nav, view the code here, take the code, copy. I'm going to go with a fixed side nav, go to HTML and just copy this sidebar content. You should be good on that. All right, and paste it. So either you can use side nav container for side nav, or you can use a drawer functionality. Whichever you use is totally fine. So it's up to us. I don't want to spend too much time on design today because we have a lot of work in terms of CRUD functionality. So I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to say example container here, and let's see how it looks. So we have this example container here. So instead I'm going to make this as 90%. Okay, so we got this thing and we got our application, so will be good. And now let's go back to our component, and this is where we'll do our magic now. So what we are going to do, we are going to generate some components. Okay, so let's go back and I'm going to say ng generate first module. Okay, I'm going to generate a module. I'm going to call it layout. So generate common module, I'm going to call it layout. So we will say ng generate module by the name layout. Okay, so we got that. So source app, we are going to go to admin, we are going to cd source / app, and then we are going to go to layout, and here I'm going to say ng generate component header. I'm generating a component by the name header. You can see here header. Now I'm going to generate ng generate, I don't know if you guys can see it, but let me type it here. ng generate c component sidebar. So this will be for the sidebar code. Now similarly ng generate component footer. So I got 3 components. These will act as my common layout modules, right? So generate common components, ng generate component header. Same way, copy this. I'm just writing all the commands so that you can refer it when you are working or coding along with me. And footer. Okay, so we got all the common modules. Now import. Next step is to import the common module that we created, which is layout, into AppModule. Otherwise it will not have a reference to it. And remember, the components needs to be exported as well. So copy this array, because we want them to use outside. So we are going to write exports and paste that array. So I'm exporting all the components here. Now let's go back to our app module here and import the layout module. Got it, and then comma. All good. Now I'm going to put a routing. I'm going to my routing file and I'm going to create 4 routes for each of my operations, which will be, so here we'll be generating the routes for our CRUD operation. So let's first see and modify our app component, and here I'm going to add app header component, right? So now we have to use padding a little bit. We have used app component in the header. We have header works. So this example container, I'm going to say padding -top should be 60 pixel. All right, and we have to start our application ng serve. You can open it in a new terminal and work parallelly, but I sometimes prefer to use it because I want to be sure that what I'm coding, I can review it before I run every time. Sometimes if your application is heavy, this may take a hit. Alright, so I can see here that I have the header works and I have the content body here. Alright, so we got the header in place. Now similarly, let's quickly put our app footer here, and this is the sidebar code. So this is where I'm going to add my app sidebar. Okay, so you see here sidebar works, header works, and finally footer works, right? So let's jazz it up quickly. So I'm going to use toolbar for my header. Let's go here and take toolbar code. I'm going to keep it simple, so I'm going to just take a basic one. Let's say this, right? Mat toolbar code, and go to my header component, paste it in the header. Again, this will give us error because we have to import the mat toolbar from the API. So the API is import mat toolbar. Go, and you can import it in only in the layout if that's what we prefer. That's fine. Now mat toolbar I'm importing and adding it to the layout module. Now it should be good. Failed to compile. Okay, So now when you see something like this, all you have to do is just restart, give it a time to compile. We have a lot of work. We have not even started the CRUD operation. We are just setting it up. So please have patience when you work with Angular. That's the most common thing that's required when working with Angular application. Okay, so there is some error. Let's see what it is. It says header component mat icon. Okay, so we see the error is because we have not imported mat icon module. So let's import that also. And the best part always is that Angular will tell you the errors. So follow the errors and we should be able to resolve anything that we come across. So we got the mat icon module, and let's see the status of our compiler. So now it's compiled successfully. We should see our header. Okay, so similarly, let's take some styling also from the example. From the toolbar, you'll see that I'm navigating quite a lot in the documentation because you don't have to look anywhere outside. Okay, all the code, all the examples will serve you as the first starting point. So make sure that you try to learn from the documentation itself. So I'm copying the CSS. So now we should see the icons here. So you see we got our header, right? So we got our sidebar. So why don't we give some spacing to our sidebar and say give it here. I'm in the app component. Let me style it up for you. I'm going to close this here so you can see the code more. All right, so here in my app component, so I'm going to give app sidebar. I'm going to call this class equal to sidebar, and I'm going to style it here and say sidebar and say max width should be 250 pixel. All right, so there we have. So we got this sidebar. We got class equal to sidebar, which is our mat drawer, and we are saying the max is 250 pixel. Let's just see by increasing it to make it 500 pixel and refresh. So that's looks like it's not reflecting. So I'm going to go ahead and put it to app sidebar. Okay, looks like something is getting overridden. Let me try this one more time here, and instead I'm going to use an ID, and this is the sidebar here, and in the sidebar code here we are going to give ID is equal to sidebar, and we'll move the content of the sidebar inside. So we got the header, footer, and the sidebar working. When you don't see something, again just restart the application and move the styling. Okay, just one quick second. All right, let it build, and once it's ready we should see our application. So this is the basic layout that we can work with. We have got the sidebar, and we have got the all right, so we got the sidebar. Let's not worry about it now. So let's go ahead and work on the list item. Okay, so let's first put a routing files. So I'm going to generate some components because we are going to work with a module for CRUD operations. So I'm going to generate a module and I'm going to call it users. Ng generate module users. We can see here that it would generate. So it created it. Now okay, so it created inside this layout. We don't want it there, so I'm going to move up to app and going to delete this here, and instead I'm going to generate this module right here at the app level. Okay, so we got the users. So now let's go into users, and now I'm going to say ng generate component view all, or I'm going to call list users. So this will list all the users. That is a read operation. And similarly I'm going to say view user. This will be a particular user that we want to view. All right, and then I'm going to say add user, and then we are going to say edit user, and then I'm going to say delete user. Okay, so that is basically your CRUD operations, which is CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. So let's add path. Now before we do that, let's import the users module into our app module. Okay, so now we have it here. The users module is imported. I'm going to go to routes and add routes for my user. So I'm going to say path is whenever there is create, the component that it should go to is add user component. Whenever I say path, now view slash colon id, it should go to component view user component. Whenever I'll say path as list, it should go to component list users component. Whenever I will say path delete slash colon id, it should be going to delete user. It's not auto completing. Let's see why. Component delete user component. Whenever there is path as edit slash id, we will say component edit user component. So see, create, read, update, delete, we created all the list, right? So now let's take this path, add it to our layout, which is in the sidebar, so that way we will have a list. So for that I'm going to use one more component, and that's just to make it beautification, this one, right? You see here, we can use this, so this will be much better looking UI. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this MatList role, copy it into your sidebar. Okay, and this will give error because we need to import the MatList module. Let's import that into our layout module. Okay, then copy the MatList module, paste it here. So now when we go and start our application, let's just check one more time. MatList item, we got MatList, excellent. Now let's start the server. All right, all right, so just a note, in case if we are running out of time for this particular thing, which is already 22 minutes now, I'll continue this in the next episode as well, so stay tuned for that. The idea is to try and achieve as much as in one go for you guys, so you have a continuity in your learning. So let's keep working as much as we can, at least for an hour or so, and see how much we can make progress. All right, so in the meanwhile, while it is compiling, I'm going to go to footer and just add some footer thing that you would want to add, like say copyright, and say our tutorials, etc. Okay, and it's generating. Sometimes it will take time, because once you're compiling with new modules, it may take a while, but it should be done. So we got here item 1 2 3 from the sidebar that we added just now here. So now I'm going to make it a link and make it and give the same path as the one that we gave it for in our routing. So I'll say add user, copy this and go here and say um, yeah, so that's basically it, right? So add user, or we can say list users. So this will be list, that's what we'll be having two. The remaining navigation we'll do it um, from the app user module. So when I click on create, you see add user works comes here. When I click list user, it says list users works, right? So the routing navigation is sorted. We are able to link that in our application. So the next step, that the next logical step we need to do. Okay, let me let me just make it a little bit better so we know, right? So I'm making it 100% now. See, I removed that margin, so that way there was two scrolls. So now we have the 100% view here. We have the add users, we have the list users, right? All right, so now I'm going to app component, and this is the mat drawer where the data is coming. Let's go to users, and first let's go to list users. So we know that since we are working with users and we are going to do CRUD operation, what I'm going to do is in the app folder, I'm going to create a new folder and say mkdir services. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a new folder by the name services, and we will need a services whenever we work with. So I'm going to say ng generate service name is user, right? So this is the one that we will have all the things that we need to work with the service files. Okay, so now that we have created a service, we obviously need to import the HTTP client module. That's what will be used for all the HTTP calls. So I'm going to say import, and the shortcut that I use is always try and import it directly here and say HTTP client module, right? So the import happens automatically in VS Code here, you see. So we have imported HTTP client module. That means I can now work with HTTP client from Angular common HTTP. In the constructor, we'll inject the instance and say HTTP is an instance of HTTP client. Right? Beautiful. So far we imported the HTTP client module, we imported the HTTP client. So now we are good to make some calls with our API. Okay, before that let's write some methods. So I'm going to say list users will get me all the list of all the data that we want to work with. So let's have a URL, right? And I'm going to say const base URL is of type string is equal to HTTP JSON placeholder. So we will have to get the JSON placeholder dot cypress.io. So this is the one we will use to get the mock APIs. Okay, so think that this is your API endpoint that is going to return you. Um, so class member cannot. Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm always confused with. Okay, so we got the URL. This is the mock base URL that we'll be using. So for listing users, what we'll be doing is we will say this dot http dot get. So here I'm saying get means get the data from this particular API. So we will be using base URL plus, so we need users, right? So we need all the users. So if you see, go to this dummy thing and you copy this URL and paste it here and make it users. So you'll get a list of users, dummy users data. So you can use this endpoint. So I'm going to make http this dot get, and I'm going to say return. Okay, so what I'm saying return whenever list users is called, call this API endpoint and return the data. Okay, so now let's go to our users, list users, go to component, now import that service here. So in the constructor, again inject user service is of user service. So see, user service is imported. Now I'm going to say on ng on in it. What we need is we will call, let's say I'm going to use list users is equal to the array, and here I'm going to say this dot user service dot list users. So this will return me all the users, right? So I can just say this dot list users. Now see, so this says observable object is missing, okay, because this will always return an observable. So what we are going to do is return an observable of type any. Okay, so now this will say list users has no initial value. So here you can just initialize, or you can just simply say that it is of type observable. Okay, and we will then have to initialize the value, because see, now this is of type user. See, it is returning object. So we are going to say object, or I can say this is an array. So now this will say list users has no initialization. So just quickly just say list users is not for now. Okay, and that should be resolved. But we will give a user model to it, like we'll create a user interface which we will export and use it. We'll modify that. So for now, let's go ahead with list users and go to our list users and just use a simple, well, li, and we'll say ng4 is equal to let user of list users, and let's print the user dot first name. Let's see if this is the data. So you have name, not first name. So user dot name. Now I'll go to list users, and we need to start the application. All right. So the, like I said, make sure that whenever you're making sure that if it's compiled, it should be successfully compiled. That's the main goal, and it should be okay. So if you follow the steps and process correctly, there is no reason why it will not work out well. It's pretty simple, straightforward. Only thing is, like I said, patience is the key. Don't give up, because it's pretty easy and straightforward things. Don't mess it up. If you run into any issues, do let me know. I'm always here to help you, and anything that you have doubts with. All right, let's give it a couple of seconds. In the meanwhile, let's try to format this, and it will be done soon. I hope you are following. I hope I'm not too fast. The entire reason being that I want to cover as much ground as possible in terms of um, covering and all the topics for you, like routing, installation, using Angular material components. I'm trying to do my best so that you can learn as much as uh, from me. Yeah. If you like the video so far, please do hit that like button. Please do hit the subscribe button. Please do consider buying me a coffee. Alrighty, let's give it some seconds. Again, this depends upon system to system. My system is little slow, so it should be done soon. Okay, so some error uh, in the code you see here. So it says template users is not assignable. Okay, so what we need to do then is returning a observable. So we will have to subscribe, and then I'm going to say data you get. Then I'm going to say um, just put this here, and instead of all of this assigning directly here, I'm going to use it here and say data. Okay, so now this will say that object is missing on the following property. The object type is assignable to very few. Did you mean to use any? Okay, so like I said, this also depends upon the type of data that we are dealing with. Usually these are open APIs, so you would have issues with it. Instead, you can just initialize with array, but this would give error because it is saying that type object is missing from the following type never. Okay, object type is assignable, instead use any. Okay, so I'm going to use any for now, if that helps. Okay, so this data we are getting from mock API, so we don't know exact structure, but in usually we will create a user object and assign it now. Okay, so now that we have compiled it successfully and you're printing it here, let's reload. So we are getting all the user details here. Okay, so let's use a list to define, right, because it would look much better. So I'm going to use MatList, and here I'm going to put that, going to delete. So again, little bit of reformatting just to make it look good. So instead of a ULLI, I'm now going to use a list. Okay, and here we are going to add the user dot name, and again this will give you error because we have not yet imported MatList component. So let's do that here. But if you see yourself using something which may require you to use multiple times, like in sidebar we have used the MatList module, right? So move it to app module. If it's a common one, move it to app module. It's like this. Whichever is generic, or you will use them continuously in different modules, please consider having them moved out. So here you see I'm moving the MatList module from here, okay? Or even better, now one second, so I have it in my MatList module, or you might want to add it here. For now I'm going to go ahead and import it here as well, but we will work on moving it to into a common one. So I'm going to put it in both so that I just get the work done for now. So you see now this is a list that we have and it's printing correctly. Okay, so this is the list users, right? And let's format it a little bit better. So here I'm going to say class is equal to main content, and here I'm going to say main content, and I'm going to say margin from left side should be 50 pixel, right? So this is much better aligned, right? Or I can say, for some reason the style is not reflecting, but I will work on this later, not now. In the list users I'm going to put it, and I'm going to put it here and take this div here, align them here, and this is the code for main content. All right, so this is my list users. So I'm listing all the users that we can use. We can use table, data, whatever. So I'm using MatList to list all the users. So now what I also want to add the action items to it, right? So we are going to use a router link is equal to. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the path. I'm going to say edit, comma. Now here I'm going to pass user dot id, and let's put it here, right? And I'm going to say edit. So see, I'm going to provide a edit link now. So you see here a href, a router link. So since I'm using router link in the list users, I need to provide it with the router module. All right. So now you see the edit link is working, but the link data is not coming correct. It's coming as an array. So let's fix that. So here you have router link. Let's quickly check the documentation for router link. You don't have to remember everything, because like I said, you will be most of the time you will be working and looking at the code, in a sense that following the documentation is one of the first and most important piece of advice that I can tell you. So let's quickly check the quick router navigation. So getting Angular understanding, Angular tutorials in the understanding Angular, or just search here router link. So we got the router link from the API, and let's go to documentation and see that okay, so it has the path that we want to give and the params. So I'm going to do data bind here, attribute, and edit, and user ID. Let's see if the ID is available. So now you see it fixed that error here in the look here. It says 1, 2, 3 edit, like that. So I'm going to go with the span and say class, say username, and going to put it here, and I'm going to end the span here. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to put some styling quickly so that we don't can see it better. Min width, I'm going to say 300 pixel. So see, now this is 300 pixel. We got this data aligned, and let's give some spacing to the links and copy the same and put that with, now the path will be delete. Okay, so you can edit or delete the user. That is the CRUD operations we are talking about. Now you can give a class to these and style them up as well and say action link. Okay, and here I'm going to give class equal to action link, and here I'm going to say action link, and I'm going to say padding should be say 10 pixel. So you see the gap between those things. So now you have the users, and now I'm going to say give a div and say total users displaying so here you can also use something like this, list users dot length, right, users. So here you can see you are showing displaying 10, and I'm going to make it h1, so here it says displaying 10 users, and these are the users, and we have the edit option. Click on edit. So here you see list edit 1. So that's not the route we have. So what we are going to do, we are going to now refactor the routing. So see, this is how in most applications you'll find yourself, because it will never be, I would say, um, one time coding. You know what I mean? Like, you will have to continuously reinvent, refactor your application, make it look good. So I'm moving all my list things inside as a child. See, so now I'm saying the parent is list. It will go to list, then list slash delete, list slash edit, list slash view. Okay, view user. So these are all inside the list. Okay, or you can also have some other thing if you would wish, but now I've put here like so. See here, I'm going to say slash list. It's going to list users component and add, and now when I say slash list, it should go to list users component. It is showing list. Now I'm saying list edit 1. It says edit 1 works, back. Now delete user works with the ID. See the ID I'm passing, right? Here it is 3, here again. So this is how you can map the IDs under the list of the users, right? All right. Again, this I'm showing you how to use a parent with a module. Okay. Alternatively, what you can do is something like this. You will always have some module name, right? Like users, and then you will say if its path is this, or if the path is list, still it should go to component list users. Even if you enter empty, that means user, it should still go to list users, right? So now create also is under users. So see, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my sidebar with the router updated links. So here it should be user slash create, and here it should be user slash list. Okay, so now when I click, it says user slash list, user slash create, right? So that's how you can disable enable module based on user functionality. When you click edit, now we have to change this functionality and go to list, and here we will give the route and say user slash edit, user slash delete. All right, so that's it. So now if you see edit list users, now you got users list. Okay, so you don't need that direct base path. So what you're going to do is you're going to use a slash. So when you use slash, it would be from the root. Now see, so when you say user slash edit slash 2, it will be 2. Now look at the URL for this. It is slash user slash delete slash 5. So we have set up the application layout. We are able to retrieve data using mock API. We created provision for edit, delete, and add list users. So now I'm going to add one more URL link like this. This is to get the data. So if you want, you can add one more option. Again, this is totally design specific how you want it. So here I'm saying view. So you got view We got multiple ones. Let's see. We don't need so many. We don't need the first edit. Let me quickly take this out. Okay, so we got the view, we got the edit, we got the delete, and that's the basically CRUD operation. This is reading all the data. This you can read a specific data, you can edit, you can delete, you can add a user, right? Beautiful. So if you want to click on view, let me implement that quickly for you in this episode, and then maybe we'll continue in the next episode because this is getting too lengthy. So I'm going to say view user, and here I'm going to pass an ID which will be a string. Okay, and then I'm going to say return the data from the URL. So now if you see the URL for the JSON, it would be user/1. So when you say user/1, it will provide you the data of this ID. So if you say 5, it will get you data of the 5th user. Okay, so we are going to append user slash plus the users slash plus the ID. Okay, so now this will return the exit ID of the details of the user with the ID that we will pass. Now let's call this in our application, which is view user. So again, in the view user, you will import the user service, and here you'll say user service, and on ng on init you'll say this dot user service dot view user. And what is the user ID that we will get? We will get it from the ID, from the URL, right? So for that we will also need private router, or we are going to say activated route, okay, activated route, and save it. And then we are going to say here const user ID is equal to this dot activated route dot. So you can see here all the options that we have, right? So we can get from params, right? Params dot now subscribe, so you can get the data that you want, and this is where your data will change, right? So you can just add it here and say this user ID is equal to data dot ID. Now we need to define user ID. So user ID is of type string equal to empty for now, and here we are going to get the ID, and we are going to pass the this dot user ID, okay, and again it's an service, so we need to subscribe. Whenever you subscribe, you get the data, you get the error message, right? So for now let's do a console log and data. Okay, so this is where we are getting the data of the user ID. Let's see that in action. Now inspect element, go to sources, go to console, and okay, so if it says error, we'll say if equal to list users, so that error should not be anymore. We were seeing an error here, so now it's no more. Alright, so now I click on view. So now you see here it is giving the data, which is all the data of that particular user. But if I want to see what is the data that I got from here, just do a console log and you should see that data also. Okay, so you see here 1, that is the value that we clicked of the path that we went to, the 1, right? So we are getting the user ID correctly from the activated route, and we are calling the API URL and getting the data. So let's have user details, okay, and I'm going to say this dot user details is equal to data, okay, and here I'm going to say div ng. Now I'll show you the error first and then show you the correct way to do it. So here let's just print the data. So here I'm going to say user details dot name. So it should give me the first name of the user. So it is giving me the name, but if you see, it should give you error in console, right? Because it says cannot read property name of undefined. When you see this message, which means that it's trying to read the property even before it's initialized in the by Angular. So if you put this condition ng if user details, then only, and now you go to console, you should not see that error, right? So that's a good practice. Always have the data check. Now similarly, now I'm going to show you how to use some other thing to maybe make it a little bit more beautiful. So I'm going to use a mat card here, right? With mat card details, right? So let's go to some example and pick up. I'm going to use a simple card for now to show you how it looks. So we are going to use a mat card. It will give error because we need to import the module first. So I'm going to do that right now. So here now I'm not going to hit the save button. I'm going to save, and I'll go to the API, copy the API mat card module into the users module, mat card module. Okay, and then it will tell no quick fixes. Okay, let's make it available. So now it's available. It will recompile the application, and see, now you are seeing a mat card component, right? So let's style it a little bit in view users and say class equal to user details, and here you put user details, and I'm going to say padding should be 20 pixel, or sorry, let's put margin, right? So we see the beautiful mat card now, right? So this is how user details. So this looks so nice that I am tempted to use this in my list users also. I know instead of MatList item we can use mat card. That looks so nice, right? So let's do that. So again, like I said, this is totally up to us what design we want. You'll keep learning about it as you progress in Angular world. There's no one thing. So you see now these are mat cards, right? So I'm going to put some styling here and put some main content list username. So I'm going to give a class here, list users, style it a little bit. So you see how easy it is to work with uh, all of the Angular components. They are just simply amazing. So you see this is the now Angular cards. Now this is a card. Inside that we have a username, list users. It has margin, it has the class name username, and minimum width is 300. So let's put that. So looks nice, right, with the card now. So we have view, edit, delete. We can fix the click on view, you'll see the details of the user. Alright, so this is one mat card, right? So I'm going to use some of the other things that mat card provides. So we are going to use something called title, mat card title, right? And use it here. That's the title of the card. And then we are also going to use mat card content. That is where we'll add, let's say, users details, user details dot, let's see what other details we can print, say um, name, address, right? Or say email for now. Okay, all right. So you see here, that's the name. We have given the mat card title and followed by the content, which looks pretty neat and clean. So similarly, we can use this mat card title in our list users to make it better, and I'm going to use it here in mat card title, and I'm going to use the name here, and then in the mat card content, we'll put some other details like actions of edit, delete, as we'll put them as part of the mat card details. So we are going to do this here and put email here, and we are going to use matcard actions, right? And we will move our actions to inside this matcard actions. All right, so this is wrong here. Double quotes here, double extra quotes, double extra quotes. Looks good now, should be good. Let's see. Failed to compile. Okay, let's see what's the error. Okay, so unexpected identifier. Let's close this. Okay, and now again compile it. It should be good. So we got the matcard component, we got matcard actions, we got the title. Okay, and in the viewer we are good. So let's give it a minute to compile. It should be good. So see how beautiful it is becoming with each step. So it just takes some time. So see here now. So we got the details, we got so I'm going to remove the 100% width, so that way you don't have the problem. It would be anyway be 100% all the time. So like this scrolling, right? So see, now I'm displaying users with the card. With these are the action buttons that we have. With the first name, click on it, you see the details of this, and I'm going to say minimum height should be 500 pixel, right? Because that way it looks good, right? Like this. Now list users. Now you have all of this data coming up together. So far so good. So this was all about the listing users and view, right? So now we have to work on edit and delete and adding new one. It's already shooting up to 1 hour, so I'm going to cover it in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm sure you will learn how to do it pretty quickly. All right. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're enjoying watching me code. I hope you can learn from it as well, and that's the beauty about it, right? So join me in the next um, episode where I'll continue working on this. If you like my work, please do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/arctutorials. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.